2 pink lines. That was all it took to shatter Isla Thorne's entire world into a million jagged pieces. Her hands wouldn't stop shaking. The pregnancy test trembled between her fingers like a death sentence wrapped in plastic, and the fluorescent light of the servant's bathroom hummed above her head like a jury deliberating her fate. This is a story about obsession disguised as love. About a man who collected souls the way other men collected art. And about a woman who was about to discover that the cage she'd walked into had no doors. Hello, beautiful souls, and welcome back to the channel. Before we dive into this intense, heart-wrenching journey, I need to know, where are you watching from right now? Are you tucked into bed in Lagos? Commuting through London? Stealing a quiet moment in New York? Drop your location in the comments. I love seeing how far our family reaches across this world. And how are you doing tonight? Really? I hope you're somewhere safe, somewhere warm. Now, have you subscribed yet? If you haven't, please tap that button right now. You do not want to miss what happens to Isla. Trust me. This story will stay with you. The test clattered into the sink. Isla gripped the porcelain edge, her knuckles going white, and stared at her reflection in the mirror. She barely recognized the woman staring back, hollow cheeks, dark circles carved beneath her eyes, lips bitten raw from weeks of anxiety. 3 months. She had been in this penthouse for 3 months. 90 days of pressing his shirts with military precision. 90 nights of pretending she didn't feel his gaze burning holes through her uniform. 90 moments of telling herself that the electricity crackling between them was just her imagination. It wasn't her imagination. And now his child was growing inside her. The bathroom door swung open without warning. Isla's heart slammed against her ribs as she spun around, instinctively covering the sink with her body. But she was too slow. She was always too slow when it came to him. Kang Jae-won stood in the doorway, filling the frame with 6 feet of tailored darkness. Black suit. Black shirt. Black soul, or so the whispers said. His face was carved from stone and secrets, all sharp angles and sharper intelligence. The kind of face that made women forget their own names and made men forget their courage. His eyes, obsidian and unreadable, dropped to the sink behind her. He didn't speak. He didn't need to. He simply extended one hand, palm up, and waited. Isla's throat closed. Sir, give it to me. His voice was low. Soft. Terrifying in its complete calm. She couldn't move. Her legs had turned to concrete. Her lungs had forgotten how to work. He stepped forward, closing the distance between them until she could smell his cologne, sandalwood and smoke and something darker underneath. His chest nearly touched hers. His breath stirred the hair at her temple. I won't ask again, Isla. Her name in his mouth was a weapon. A warning. A promise. With trembling fingers, she reached behind her and placed the test in his palm. He looked at it. 2 pink lines, bright as emergency flares, screaming the truth neither of them could escape. The silence stretched into eternity. Then something shifted in his expression. Something that looked almost like satisfaction. Good, he murmured. Isla blinked. Good. He pocketed the test, actually put it in his jacket like it was a receipt, a contract, proof of purchase, and when he looked at her again, his eyes had changed. The coldness was still there, yes. But beneath it burned something else entirely. Hunger. You thought you could leave, he said quietly. I saw the job applications on your phone. The apartment listings. The bus tickets you researched at 3 in the morning when you thought no one was watching. Isla's blood turned to ice. He'd been monitoring her phone. Of course he had. He monitored everything. Everyone. I was just. You were planning to run. He stepped even closer, and now his hand was on her chin, tilting her face up to meet his gaze. His touch was gentle. His grip was iron. But you can't run anymore, can you? Not now. This doesn't change anything, she whispered, even as her heart screamed that it changed everything. It changes everything. His thumb traced her lower lip, featherlight. You're carrying my air, Isla. My blood. My legacy. He leaned down until his mouth was at her ear, and the words he spoke next would echo in her nightmares for weeks to come. I own you now. And I never let go of what's mine. He released her and stepped back, straightening his cuffs with the calm precision of a man who had just concluded a business transaction. Dinner is at 7, he said. Wear something appropriate. We have much to discuss about your new position in this household. Then he was gone, leaving nothing behind but the ghost of his cologne and the wreckage of her plans. Isla sank to the bathroom floor, her back against the cold tile, her hand pressed to her still flat stomach. She had walked into this penthouse looking for a paycheck. A way to save enough money for nursing school. A temporary arrangement. But there was nothing temporary about Kang Jae-won. And as she sat there in the silence, one terrible question clawed its way to the surface of her mind. Was he a monster who saw her as property? Or was there something else hiding behind those impenetrable eyes? Something that looked almost like desperation? And more importantly, if she stayed, would she lose herself completely? Or had that already happened the first time he touched her? The morning after Kang Jae-won declared his ownership, Isla Thorne woke to the sound of her own heartbeat. It was too loud. Too fast. Too alive for a woman who felt like she was already buried. She lay in her narrow servant's bed, staring at the ceiling of the small room adjacent to the kitchen, and let the memories wash over her. Not the memories of last night, those were too fresh, too sharp, but the older ones. The ones that explained how a woman with dreams of healing others had ended up pressing shirts for a man who broke people for a living. Her mother's face floated up from the depths. Sun-weathered skin. Calloused hands that smelled of lavender soap. A smile that could make even the darkest days feel survivable. Rosa Thorne had worked 3 jobs to keep food on the table after Isla's father vanished when she was 7. Cleaning houses during the day. Waitressing at night. Weekend shifts at the laundromat on 5th Street. She never complained. Never stopped. Never let Isla see her cry, though Isla heard it sometimes, muffled sobs leaking through thin apartment walls at 2 in the morning. Education is the door, Mija, her mother used to say, pressing textbooks into Isla's hands. You walk through it, and you never look back. Isla had believed her. She'd graduated top of her class. Got accepted into nursing school on a partial scholarship. Had the whole future mapped out in her mind like a constellation she could navigate by. Then her mother got sick. Stage 4 pancreatic cancer. The diagnosis came like a bullet, fast, brutal, and impossible to dodge. The medical bills piled up faster than Isla could work to pay them. The scholarship couldn't cover tuition and chemotherapy. The apartment they'd lived in for 15 years suddenly became a luxury they couldn't afford. Rosa Thorne died on a Tuesday morning in March, holding Isla's hand, whispering words Isla couldn't quite hear. She was 23 years old. That was 2 years ago. The debt didn't die with her mother. It multiplied. Collection agencies called at all hours. Credit scores plummeted. Doors that had once been open slammed shut in Isla's face. When the job posting appeared, live-in housekeeper needed for private residence. Excellent compensation. Discretion required. Isla hadn't asked questions. She couldn't afford to. The salary was 4 times what she'd been making. The contract was for 1 year. The penthouse was a palace compared to the cramped studio she'd been surviving in. She told herself it was temporary. A stepping stone. 12 months of ironing shirts and dusting chandeliers, and she'd have enough saved to restart her life. She never expected him. A knock on her door pulled Isla from her memories. "Miss Isla? Are you awake?" The voice was warm, accented with the soft cadence of someone who had learned English as a second language. Isla recognized it immediately. "Come in, Mrs. Song." The door opened to reveal a woman in her late 50s, silver-streaked hair pulled back in a practical bun, kind eyes crinkled at the corners. Song Minute-ji had been the head housekeeper of the Park penthouse for over 2 decades. She moved through the halls like a ghost, quiet, efficient, invisible when she needed to be. But she had been kind to Isla from the first day. Teaching her the rhythms of the household. Warning her which rooms to avoid and which hours Mr. Kang preferred silence. Slipping her extra portions at meals when she thought no one was looking. This morning, Mrs. Song carried a tray with tea and plain crackers. "For the nausea," she said simply, setting it on the nightstand. Isla's hand flew to her stomach. "How did you?" "I raised 4 children, Miss Isla. I know the look." Mrs. Song sat on the edge of the bed, something she'd never done before. "I also know Mr. Kang called Dr. Yoon this morning. The doctor will be here at noon." So it was real. He wasn't going to pretend it hadn't happened. Wasn't going to offer her money to disappear. He was already building walls around her. "Mrs. Song," Isla whispered. What do I do? The older woman's face softened with something that looked like grief. That depends on what you want, child. I want to leave. I want my life back. I want. The words caught in her throat. And what about what he wants? Isla laughed bitterly. Does that matter? He's made it clear I don't have a choice. Mrs. Song was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke again, her voice had dropped to barely a whisper. Mr. Kang is not a simple man. The world sees a monster, and he has done monstrous things. I won't pretend otherwise. But I have worked in this house for 22 years. I was here when his father ran things. I was here when... She trailed off, glancing toward the door as if afraid the walls might be listening. When what? Isla pressed. His mother, Mrs. Song said carefully. She was like you, once. Young. Bright. Full of dreams. His father saw her and decided she would be his. She had no choice either. Isla's blood chilled. What happened to her? She died. When Jae-won was 12. Mrs. Song's eyes glistened. Some say it was an accident. Some say she couldn't bear the cage anymore and found her own way out. I was there when they found her at the bottom of the staircase. I saw the look on that boy's face. The image carved itself into Isla's mind, a 12-year-old boy standing over his mother's broken body, learning in that moment that love and destruction were two sides of the same coin. He swore he would never be like his father, Mrs. Song continued. But trauma has a way of becoming prophecy. He built walls so high that no one could ever hurt him again. And now? She looked at Isla with something between pity and hope. Now he's found something he wants to protect. The question is whether he knows the difference between protection and possession. Before Isla could respond, the door swung open. Jae-won's personal assistant strode in, a sharp-featured man in his 30s with the posture of a soldier and the eyes of someone who had seen too much. This was Dominic Wick, Jae-won's right hand, his shadow, his enforcer when enforcement was needed. Mr. Kang requests your presence in his study, Dominic said, his voice flat and professional. Immediately. Mrs. Song rose quickly, smoothing her apron. I'll bring fresh tea to the study. She squeezed Isla's hand once, a silent message of courage, and slipped out. Dominic remained in the doorway, waiting. Isla looked at him, searching for any hint of sympathy. Does he always summon people like this? Like they are servants waiting on his command? Something flickered in Dominic's expression, amusement, maybe, or recognition. You are a servant, Miss Thorne. Or at least, you were. He paused. Whatever you are now, I'd suggest you don't keep him waiting. He's been in a mood since last night. What kind of mood? Dominic's mouth curved into the ghost of a smile. The kind where he reorganized his entire schedule to be home today. The kind where he rejected 3 meetings worth millions of dollars. The kind where he asked me, he stopped himself. Asked you what? Nothing. The professional mask slid back into place. 5 minutes, Miss Thorne. He disappeared, leaving Isla alone with her cold tea and colder fears. She stood slowly, her legs unsteady, and caught her reflection in the small mirror above the dresser. The woman staring back looked fragile. Breakable. Exactly the kind of woman a predator would choose. But there was something else there too. Something her mother had planted years ago and watered with sacrifice. Steel. Isla squared her shoulders. Kang Jae-won thought he owned her. Thought a baby and a contract and a locked door were enough to cage a woman who had survived poverty and loss and the complete collapse of every dream she'd ever held. He was wrong. She didn't know how yet. Didn't know when or where or what shape her escape would take. But as she walked toward his study, Isla Thorne made herself a promise. She would not become his mother. She would not become a ghost haunting the halls of a golden prison. One way or another, she would find a way out. Even if she had to burn the whole empire down to do it. If you're feeling Isla's fear and determination right now, drop a flexed biceps in the comments. Let her know she's not alone. And if you haven't subscribed yet, now's the moment, because what happens in that study is going to change everything. The study smelled of leather and old money. Isla paused in the doorway, taking in the room she had only ever cleaned in Jae-won's absence. Floor-to-ceiling bookshelves lined with volumes that looked too pristine to have been read. A mahogany desk the size of a small boat. Windows that stretched across the entire wall, offering a view of Seoul that made the city look like a toy kingdom waiting to be conquered. And there, silhouetted against the grey morning light, stood the man who had decided her fate without asking permission. Kang Jae-won didn't turn around when she entered. He was holding a glass of something amber, whiskey, probably, though it wasn't yet 10 in the morning, and staring at the cityscape as if he could set it on fire with his gaze. Close the door. Isla obeyed. She hated that she obeyed. The click of the latch sounded like a lock engaging. Sit. I'd rather stand. Now he turned. His expression was unreadable, but something flickered in his eyes, surprise, perhaps, or the beginning of respect. Men like him weren't accustomed to defiance. As you wish. He gestured toward a leather chair anyway, then moved to his desk, setting down the glass with deliberate precision. Dr. Yoon will be here in 2 hours. She's the best obstetrician in the country. Discreet. Thorough. She'll confirm the pregnancy and establish a care plan. And if I don't want your doctor, then you'll have her anyway. He said it without malice, the way someone might state that the sky was blue. The child you're carrying is heir to the Kang Empire. Its health is not negotiable. Isla's hands curled into fists at her sides. And what about my health? My choices? My life? Your life, Jae-won said slowly, is now inextricably linked to mine. The sooner you accept that, the easier this will be. For you, maybe. For both of us. He opened a drawer and withdrew a folder, thick, manila, stuffed with documents. He slid it across the desk toward her. What is this? Isla asked, not moving to take it. Your new contract. The terms of your arrangement. Arrangement. As if she were a vase he decided to place on a different shelf. Against her better judgment, Isla stepped forward and opened the folder. Her eyes scanned the pages, legal jargon, financial figures, conditions and clauses that blurred together in a sea of black ink. Then she saw the numbers. Her breath caught. $5 million, Jae-won said, watching her face. Deposited into an account in your name upon the child's birth. An additional monthly allowance of $50,000 for personal expenses. Full medical coverage. A private suite in this penthouse. Access to vehicles, staff, whatever you require. Isla looked up. You're buying me. I'm providing for you. There's a difference. A significant one. He moved around the desk, closing the distance between them with predatory grace. A purchase implies you have no value beyond the transaction. This, he gestured at the folder. This is recognition that you carry something precious. Something I will protect at any cost. And if I refuse? Jae-won stopped inches from her. She could feel the heat radiating from his body, could see the faint scar beneath his left eye that she'd never noticed before. You won't. You're so sure. I'm sure, he said quietly, because I know you, Isla Thorne. Better than you realize. Something in his tone made her stomach drop. What does that mean? He reached past her, so close she could smell the whiskey on his breath, and retrieved a second folder from his desk. This one was older, worn at the edges, stuffed with photographs and documents that looked like they'd been handled many times. He placed it in her hands. Isla opened it. And the floor fell out from under her. Photographs. Dozens of them. Her at the coffee shop near her old apartment. Her at the grocery store. Her at her mother's grave, kneeling in the rain, flowers clutched in her trembling hands. Her at job interviews, at the laundromat, at the bus stop at 6 a.m. when she was too tired to notice the world around her. Photographs that dated back months before she'd ever applied for this job. The word came out strangled. You were watching me. I was observing a potential asset. Asset. The folder shook in her grip. I'm not an asset. I'm a person. You are both. Jae-won's voice remained calm, clinical. Do you think it was coincidence that my job posting reached you? That the salary was exactly what you needed? That the contract length matched your debt payment timeline? The room spun. Isla grabbed the edge of the desk to steady herself. You targeted me, she whispered. Specifically. Deliberately. Yes. Why? For the first time, something cracked in his composure. His jaw tightened. His eyes dropped to the floor for just a fraction of a second before meeting hers again. Because I saw something in you that I recognized, he said slowly, as if the words cost him something. Strength hiding behind survival. Fire smothered by circumstance. You reminded me of. He stopped. Of who? Isla demanded. Your mother. The silence that followed was so absolute she could hear her own heartbeat. Jaewon's expression shuttered completely. The crack sealed itself. The mask returned. That's not relevant. It's entirely relevant. You chose me because I reminded you of a woman who died trying to escape a man exactly like you. I am nothing like my father. The words came out sharp, dangerous. Nothing. Then prove it. Let me go. He laughed, a hollow, bitter sound. I can't do that. Can't or won't. Both. He moved to the window again, his back to her, shoulders rigid with tension she hadn't noticed before. There's something you need to see. He pressed a button on his desk. A screen descended from the ceiling, flickering to life with security footage. Isla watched, confused, as the image showed the lobby of the building. A man in a delivery uniform approached the front desk, spoke briefly to the concierge, then left. I don't understand. That man isn't a delivery driver. Jaewon's voice had gone cold. Deadly. His name is Viktor Petrov. He works for the Volkov Syndicate, a Russian organization that has been trying to destroy my family for 3 generations. The footage switched to another angle. The same man, photographed entering a car with tinted windows. Yesterday, he delivered a package to this building. Inside was a photograph. Jaewon turned to face her. A photograph of you. Ice flooded Isla's veins. Me? Why would they? Because they've discovered you exist. They've discovered you matter to me. He crossed the room and gripped her shoulders, his touch firm but not painful. Do you understand now? It's not just about the baby anymore. They will use you to get to me. They will hurt you, break you, destroy you, not because of anything you've done, but because harming you harms me. Isla's mind raced. Then send me away. Hide me somewhere they can't find. There is nowhere they can't find. The only safe place is here, beside me, where I can protect you every moment of every day. His grip tightened. I know you hate me. I know you see a cage where I see sanctuary. But if you leave this penthouse right now, you will be dead within 48 hours. That is not a threat. It is a fact. She searched his face for deception and found none. Only fear. Real, raw, unfamiliar fear, not for himself, but for her. Why do you care? She whispered. I'm just a maid. A convenience. Why would my death matter to you? Jaewon's hands moved from her shoulders to her face, cradling her jaw with a tenderness that contradicted everything she knew about him. Because somewhere between watching you cry at your mother's grave and watching you fight to survive a world that gave you nothing, his voice dropped to barely a whisper. I fell in love with you. And I have no idea how to do this without destroying us both. Before Isla could respond, an explosion rocked the building. Alarms screamed. Glass shattered somewhere in the distance. Dominic burst through the study door, gun drawn, face pale. Sir. They've breached the garage level. They are coming. Jaewon released Isla and moved with terrifying efficiency, withdrawing a gun from a hidden panel in his desk. Get her to the safe room, he ordered. Now. Jaewon, Isla started. He turned to her one last time, and in his eyes she saw something that broke through every wall she'd built. Desperation. Devotion. And the terrible weight of a man who had just confessed his heart and might not live to see another hour. Stay alive, he said. That's all I ask. Stay alive, and I will come for you. Then he was gone, disappearing into the chaos, leaving Isla with a choice she never expected to face. Run, and likely die free. Or stay, and survive in the arms of a monster who might just love her. The safe room was a tomb wrapped in steel. Dominic had half-dragged, half-carried Isla through a maze of hidden corridors she never knew existed. Behind walls that looked like ordinary plaster were reinforced passages. Behind bookshelves were doors that required fingerprint and retinal scans. The penthouse she'd cleaned for 3 months was a fortress wearing a mask of luxury. Now she sat on a narrow cot in a windowless room, surrounded by monitors showing feeds from every corner of the building, and listened to the muffled sounds of gunfire somewhere far below. How long do we stay here? she asked, her voice steadier than she felt. Dominic stood by the door, weapon ready, eyes fixed on the screens. Until Mr. Kang says otherwise. And if he doesn't make it? The question hung in the air like smoke. Dominic's jaw tightened, but he didn't answer. On the monitors, Isla watched chaos unfold in fragments. Men in tactical gear flooding the parking garage. J1's security team engaging them with brutal efficiency. Bodies falling. Blood spattering concrete. And somewhere in that violence was the man who had just told her he loved her. She didn't know what to feel. Fear, certainly. Her hands wouldn't stop shaking, and every explosion made her flinch. But beneath the fear was something else, something that felt treacherously like concern. Not for herself. For him. He's done this before, Dominic said quietly, as if reading her thoughts. He survived worse when he was 17. Isla looked at him. What happened when he was 17? Dominic hesitated. For a moment, his professional mask slipped, revealing something almost human underneath. His father tried to have him killed. The words landed like stones in still water. His own father. Chairman Kang was not a man who tolerated competition. When J1 started showing signs of being smarter, stronger, more capable, the chairman saw a threat, not a son. Dominic's eyes never left the monitors. He arranged an accident. Car bomb. J1 was supposed to be inside. But he wasn't. No. He'd gotten out 2 blocks earlier because he forgot his phone at school. A grim smile crossed Dominic's face. His driver died. His bodyguard died. 3 civilians died. J1 watched the car explode from across the street and knew, in that moment, that his father had ordered it. Isla's stomach churned. She thought of the cold, controlled man who had shown her photographs of her own life, who had confessed love like it was a business transaction. She tried to imagine him as a 17-year-old boy watching his father's betrayal unfold in fire and twisted metal. What did he do? What he always does. Dominic finally looked at her, and there was something like respect in his gaze. He survived. He planned. And when he was ready, he took everything his father had built and made it his own. He killed his father. The chairman died of a heart attack 3 years later. Dominic's expression gave nothing away. Officially. The implications settled into Isla's bones. The man who loved her was capable of patricide. Of calculated, patient revenge. Of waiting years to destroy someone who had wronged him. And yet he had looked at her with fear in his eyes. Had cradled her face like she was something precious. Had confessed feelings he clearly didn't know how to handle. Which version of him was real? Could both exist in the same person? 3 hours later, the door to the safe room opened. J1 stepped inside, and Isla forgot how to breathe. He was covered in blood. Some of it was his, a gash across his forearm, a cut above his eyebrow that dripped crimson down his cheek. Most of it was not. His white shirt was ruined, stained rust red, clinging to a body that moved like it had been forged for violence. But his eyes found her immediately. "You're safe," he said. It wasn't a question. It was a confirmation, a prayer, a release of tension that made his shoulders drop by inches. "I'm safe." Isla stood, her legs unsteady. "You're bleeding." "It's nothing." "That's a lot of blood for nothing." "Most of it isn't mine." The casual way he said it should have horrified her. Instead, Isla found herself crossing the room, reaching for his injured arm, examining the wound with the clinical eye her nursing training had given her. "This needs stitches," she said. "Later." "Now." She looked up at him, surprised by her own firmness. "You don't get to protect me and then bleed out from stubbornness." Something shifted in his expression. The hardness softened. The predator retreated, leaving behind a man who looked almost touched. "There's a medical kit in the cabinet," Dominic offered, a hint of amusement in his voice. "I'll give you two some privacy." He slipped out, closing the door behind him. And suddenly, Isla was alone with J1 in a way she'd never been before. Not as maid and employer. Not as captive and captor. Just two people, one wounded, one trying to heal. She found the medical kit and guided him to the cot, making him sit while she cleaned the gash on his arm. Her movements were efficient, practiced, the muscle memory of training that had never quite left her. "You wanted to be a nurse," he said quietly. Still do. Wanted. She threaded the needle, her hands steadier now that they had a task. It doesn't matter anymore. It matters. His good hand caught her wrist, stilling her movements. When this is over, when the threat is neutralized, I'll pay for your education. Whatever program you want. Whatever school. You'll finish what you started. Isla looked at him, searching for the catch. And in exchange. Nothing. Nothing. You're carrying my child. His thumb traced circles on her wrist, sending electricity up her arm. You've given me something I never thought I'd have. A legacy that isn't built on blood and fear. An heir who might be better than I am. He paused. Your dreams matter because you matter. That's not a transaction. It's just true. She didn't know what to say. The words tangled in her throat, caught between suspicion and something warmer. Instead of speaking, she finished stitching his wound. He didn't flinch, didn't make a sound, just watched her with those dark eyes that saw too much. You're good at this, he observed when she tied off the thread. I've had practice. Your mother. The question was gentle, but it still cut. Isla focused on bandaging his arm, on the mechanical motions that kept her from falling apart. She was sick for a long time before she died. I learned to change dressings, manage medications, monitor vitals. The nurses at the hospital taught me when they realized I wasn't leaving her side. She secured the bandage with medical tape. I thought if I learned enough, I could save her. But you couldn't. No. The word came out smaller than she intended. I couldn't. Jaewon's hand moved to her chin, tilting her face up. There were tears on her cheeks. When had she started crying? My mother died when I was 12, he said quietly. I found her at the bottom of the stairs. They said it was an accident, but I knew. I always knew. Knew what? That my father had pushed her. His voice was hollow. She tried to leave once. Tried to take me with her. He caught her at the airport and dragged her back. 3 days later, she was dead. The horror of it washed over Isla in waves. The 12-year-old boy. The mother's body. The father's cruelty. That's why you won't let me leave, she whispered. You're afraid of becoming him, but you're also afraid of losing me the way he lost her. Both things are true. He released her chin but didn't move away. I am fighting a war inside myself every moment of every day. The part that wants to lock you in a tower where nothing can touch you. And the part that knows that's exactly how monsters are made. Which part is winning? I don't know. The admission seemed to cost him something vital. But when I saw those men breaching the building, when I knew they were coming for you, his hand moved to her stomach, resting over the place where their child grew. I understood my father for the first time. The possessiveness. The obsession. The willingness to destroy anything that threatened what he considered his. That terrifies me. It should. His eyes met hers. It terrifies me too. They sat in silence, his hand warm against her belly, the weight of impossible choices pressing down on them both. I don't love you, Isla said finally. I want to be clear about that. I don't know what I feel, but it isn't love. You took my choices. You watched me without my knowledge. You engineered this entire situation. I know. Let me finish. She placed her hand over his. I don't love you. But I'm starting to understand you. And understanding is dangerous, because it leads to empathy, and empathy leads to forgiveness. I don't know. Maybe. Eventually. She pulled away and stood, needing distance. But right now, I need to know that you'll try. That you'll fight that part of you that wants to cage me. That you'll let me be a person, not a possession. Jaewon rose slowly, his wounded arm held carefully at his side. I will try, he said. I can't promise I'll succeed. I don't know how to love without destroying. But for you, for this child, I will try. It wasn't enough. But it was a start. 3 days passed in the safe room before Dominic declared the threat neutralized. 12 of the Volkov attackers were dead. 3 were in custody, being interrogated in a location Isla didn't want to know about. The rest had retreated, regrouping for what Jaewon grimly called Round 2. But in those 3 days, something shifted between them. They talked. Really talked, Not about contracts or arrangements, but about the broken pieces of their histories. Jaewon told her about the first time he killed a man. He was 19. The man had been sent to finish what the car bomb started. Isla told him about the day she sold her mother's wedding ring to pay for one more round of chemotherapy. They ate meals together in the cramped space, Jaewon proving surprisingly capable of preparing simple dishes when the need arose. They watched old movies on a small screen embedded in the wall, and Isla discovered that the most feared crime lord in Seoul had an inexplicable fondness for romantic comedies. They are predictable, he explained when she teased him about it. In a life where everything is chaos, I find comfort in knowing the ending will be happy. Is that what you want? She asked. A happy ending. He looked at her with an intensity that made her stomach flutter. I want you to be happy. Whatever that looks like. She didn't know what to say. So she said nothing. But that night, when she woke from a nightmare about her mother's death, she found Jaewon sitting beside her cot, his hand wrapped around hers, his presence solid and warm in the darkness. I'm here, he murmured. Go back to sleep. And somehow, impossibly, she did. If you're feeling the tension building between these two, drop a fire in the comments. Are you team give him a chance or team run girl run? Let me know. And please subscribe if you haven't. The next episode is where everything changes.